So with that, I have the tremendous joy of bringing Nina Harding to stage. Nina, as you know, is CVP of Enterprise Global Partner Solutions at Microsoft. Terrific innovator. We are going to have a terrific conversation. As CVP of Americas, she oversees the strategy, the innovation, and the health of the entire Microsoft partnership portfolio. That's a big job. And you are, Nina, empowering all these partners to deliver an amazing innovation on top of Microsoft technology. So a warm welcome from our community to you, Nina. Good morning.
Well, Amit, thank you so much for having me here. And thank you for your partnership. You've made a material difference in how we are actually activating a lot of our partners today and making sure that we're following through on the promise of co-sell. So,
absolutely. Nina, I'm excited about this discussion, but first, let's really talk about the amazing impact that Microsoft has had on the world. You've crossed, like just last quarter, 80 plus billion in overall revenue, 51.6 billion in cloud revenue. Congrats. Partners are a big reason for this success. So what has been your recipe in activating kind of a whole ecosystem at scale like this?
Well, the ecosystem itself is thriving right now, and I think it is super, super energetic as far as the opportunity that's ahead. So I think in particular, we have an opportunity at Microsoft where we're kind of transitioning from this conversation around AI being a possibility out in the market. But the reality is what we're doing with our partners is we're trying to make it very, very real at the field level. And what moves the needle is super specific to the workloads tied to business outcomes. So what you're hearing is not so much around the product and product specialization, but what you're really hearing about is what are we doing for the end client that actually moves the needle in their business. Sometimes it is those traditional ROI metrics like a cost takeout. Sometimes it's around productivity lifts, modernization. But oftentimes now what we're seeing is it's opening and unlocking new markets and revenue acceleration, which is really the exciting side of the equation that we're unlocking with our partners. And I would say that the partners who win aren't necessarily leading with an AI strategy. They're leading with experience, a tailored story around clear use cases, clear customer adoption with outcomes that map to funded customer priorities, especially things around modernization and security and transforming that customer experience that so many of our clients are looking for. Mm-hmm. And these partners are just showing how AI is accelerating those outcomes.
Fantastic. Together, you and your partners have really kind of out-executed the market. It's competition between the ecosystems when we think about it. Mm-hmm. So congrats on excelling on that. Nina, this is something that I've seen personally. You are known as the remover of roadblocks in the ecosystem, especially with large companies. And I've watched you. These are results that I'm showing on the screen here from our initiative, Project Ascend, where you removed the roadblock of co-selling, where people are manually co-selling. You provided the automation for it. Mm-hmm. These are amazing results. FY24 to FY26, if you see, 45,000 opportunities shared with Microsoft. This is partners deriving 27 billion in pipeline. And that led to 5.2 billion in revenue earned for the partners. And this just on WorkSpan. Yeah, there's so much more out there as well. This is like we do just a fraction of it. Mm-hmm. Within our stuff itself, we are seeing a 6x growth in revenue. These are astounding numbers. So take us behind the scenes. Why did you sponsor co-sell automation for Ascend with your STCs?
Oh, gosh. I mean, the most important thing at the end of the day when you measure a partnership is, are we successful together driving outcomes for our customers? And I'd love to say that we're all altruistic, but we're not, right? We have to be making money for our companies. And that co-sell is, I think, the most overused word that means so many different things to so many different companies. And really what I think WorkSpan did together with us in an initiative that we called Project Ascend is that we were able to leverage the fact that so many partners were already part of WorkSpan's co-sell program. And then we doubled down on that. We put more wood behind the arrow. And to your point, we kind of removed some roadblocks and just made sure to make sense of it and support it and to grow the opportunity. What we thought was going to be really beneficial and what we're seeing, and I think sometimes the numbers speak really well for them, is the key benefit for the partners in Project Ascend was the API automation between our companies, right? So WorkSpan reduces that manual deal uploads, allowing the partners to focus on market activation, strategic priorities, honing the value proposition, and making sure we have transparency between our companies on what we're actually working on, activating, and putting energy behind. For some of our larger partners, this has actually resulted in many more co-sell opportunities and faster connections with Microsoft sellers. And quite honestly, for my organization, we have more visibility and we can actually agitate on the pipeline and make sure that our partners are front and center to all of the incredible opportunities that we're also driving on our side.
Fantastic. All these important partners like Avanade, like Capgemini, like DocuSign, we're going to hear from Bronwyn Hastings later on. The way they have rallied around your call to action to automate first has been pretty exciting and endearing to see. So congrats and thanks for your amazing sponsorship.
Of course.
Now, pivoting to AI a little bit, you spoke about unlocking and you spoke about AI. Microsoft is both an AI company, but it's also one of the largest partner ecosystems out there, right? From where you sit today, what's the gap that you're seeing on how AI is being talked about, but what is actually moving the needle in the field today in terms of actually selling those solutions?
Yeah, I think the real gap I see today is just how fast can we all activate together. So we used to talk about enabling partners technically, but today the conversation is not just a technical enablement, but it's actually in how we have the conversation with customers as well. It's unlocking how to explore what is going to be most meaningful for their clients. And then the third thing that we're finding, which is interesting, is that it's not just about the technical enablement, two, kind of that pre-sales, but it's actually on the change management activation. So how do our partners make sure that they're showing up and activating within the client? So the field really responds well when you could talk about all three pieces of that equation and how you as a partner are differentiated. And what that comes back to is if they're embedded in our go-to-market motions, if they have a industry-specific message that resonates, and it is not a ubiquitous, I can do anything for everyone and the art of possibilities. We've moved beyond that. Now it's the art of precision and value. And that's really important.
What an important point, moving from the art of the possibility where companies are stuck in doing POCs and proving the value of POCs. What you're saying is now it's about precision. It's about delivering the outcomes. It's about moving those POCs into production on the highest value points, because in your opening, you talked about that. Are there some examples? Or are there, can you double down on that message for the ecosystem here?
Yeah, I mean, so when we talk about the value proposition, I'm encouraging, and the way I'm seeing a lot of traction is if you think by industry or even sub-industry, what are the use cases, the outcomes that you can drive? And is it at a persona level, meaning like a work group level? What are you doing within healthcare life sciences for the payers, right? Or the providers? Let's talk about providers. And then bringing it down to what is the value proposition that you might be able to help unlock around physicians or around the patient records or scheduling or even customer or patient support. This is where, as partners are honing what their value proposition is, it makes an immediate trigger with the field, and they know now who to call, bring in, and activate at their client location. So that I think is a really important point around how we get to that faster deal velocity and making sure that we have those co-sell opportunities that aren't always just one-off, but repeatable. We all want that. We all want that flywheel to go so that we're driving strategy together into the market.
Absolutely. And talking about the signal versus noise, and something that I picked from you, both you and Ron have talked about this concept of pre-pipeline, aligning the sales teams early across
Mm-hmm.
companies.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of this really allows you and your partners to kind of really hone in on the industry message, the use case message, and down to your point, right? Talking about, whether it's about healthcare and within healthcare about, let's say, providers or payees, and kind of getting down to the specific use case. So that
Mm-hmm.
early collaboration allows you to traverse all these layers very, very quickly and hone in on the value. Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that pre-alignment is everything in today's world, right? And taking that extra time when you're working with a sales rep around, do you actually know the account? Do you understand their business problem? Can you articulate your particular value together with Microsoft and what outcome you could drive? That's a very different conversation than how we used to approach things
Yeah.
in the partner world. And it takes a little bit more thinking and time, but an ounce of that pre-alignment actually makes for a much smoother sales process and much greater adoption with the field.
Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about some changes that Microsoft has done, right? So we saw earlier in the year the Azure Marketplace and the App Store kind of coming together into one. We saw
Mm-hmm.
this whole focus around co-sell. So we're seeing co-sell and marketplace kind of become one and the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Co-sell is marketplace, marketplace is co-sell.
Yeah.
We talk about this alignment both in the pre-pipeline stages down to the transaction through the marketplace.
Yeah.
Why should partners pay attention to this?
So there are a number of things we're doing. Let me talk first about the pre-alignment, and then let me talk about co-sell and how it works with marketplace a little bit. On the pre-alignment, increasingly we are looking at partners that have that unique industry, sub-industry, or persona level value proposition. And we actually map them internally to make those available to our field. That's a really good opportunity. So if you're not honing to that level of accuracy, you're probably not pre-aligned in the recommendations that are coming out to the field as a quick shot. So that's the first thing I really recommend. But co-sell has increasingly moved, in particular at Microsoft, to marketplace. And they're no longer kind of motions that we drive in parallel. Marketplace is becoming the commercial backbone of co-sell. It's not an optional channel anymore, and our field is paid off of marketplace transactions, right? And our customers are seeing value because they can deprecate their MAC agreements. And the field simply, they just want fewer steps from opportunity to close. So the partners that are transacting through marketplace are really removing a lot of that friction from sellers. And there is a clean procurement, a faster deal velocity, much clearer economics for everyone involved, which directly increases the field's willingness to engage. And that means we have a pretty high bar, right? Partners need co-sell ready solutions that are also marketplace ready. So that combination is the trick now with aligned pricing and incentives and deal mechanics. So I really, really encourage everyone to be thinking about not just how you're priming your pump and how you have that unique value proposition, but that whole process of how do we work together so we've removed the friction, not only between our companies, but for the client itself.
Fantastic. What really amazes me is your new definition around SDCs, the software development company. It's not just ISVs, but also services partners.
Yep.
And, the value of the ISVs is known to, like, you have a product, you co-sell and you sell through the marketplace. But there's a new trend that I've seen. It's the SIs kind of packaging their IP and putting it on the marketplace as well.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that part of the SDCs. We're seeing SIs, in particular Microsoft SIs like Capgemini, Avnod, EY, and others, kind of packaging IP as well.
Yeah, it's super powerful, right? Let me talk about the SIs in particular, right? They're on the front lines with a lot of our clients. They are, let's talk about call centers, for example. They're going in and they're trying to help optimize call centers. And AI made really great headway in doing this in the call center methodology. And a lot of our partners are really understanding they can hone that experience into a IP that's unique to them. And what a better way than to take that and then build an agent that they can quickly get to value with a client. So when you're approaching a client, maybe telcos, for example, that have customer support areas, you can go in and say, hey, I have some quick wins for you, right? Here are some agents that will show a return on investment. I can show you across other companies, and boom, you can get to value really, really quickly. And then we can start working on some of the bend the curve adoption. We're seeing this left and right. What I'm encouraging is what you're hearing from me, and what I'm encouraging everyone to do is think about those that captured IP, that productized IP, right? Those agents by industry, sub-industry, and by persona. And that's the way you can really map quickly and get the traction on the co-sell at Microsoft, and I think actually drive time to value for clients.
Awesome. One of the questions that I'm getting from the audience here, and I want to kind of intercede and ask this, oftentimes, people want to get Microsoft's attention, right? There's a reality check here. There are, resources are hard everywhere, especially when you're prosecuting at scale. So what does a partner need to do operationally? So let's say they have built this persona, they've had this industry-specific specialization, they build this agent, but they're saying, hey, I'm here. How do I get Microsoft's attention? What's your advice to them to get attention consistently from Microsoft?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, where do we put our attention in our personal lives? It's through our network. It's through what is gaining momentum. Where have we seen success? So when we go and buy anything or we lean into research anything, it's because we've seen that. We recently put on Partner Center, the ability for partners to actually detail and share their success stories and their use cases using AI to actually write those stories really, really easily. And that is an incredible way to gain that momentum. That gets piped all over Microsoft and right into our sales agent tools that the field uses with internally what we call MSX, which is our sales systems. In addition to that, don't forget the power of the success you've had with a particular sales rep. It is a viral community, right? Yeah. Sales reps, and I don't mean to oversimplify, but they are coin operated and ego driven, right? And so capturing their excitement in working with you, what you did to unlock, and capturing that in a short video or something that can then become almost like a reference internally, then you get that viral connection. And those are the two things I think of in addition to what I talked about earlier, which is really making sure that you're lined up to some of the sales plays by industry, those value propositions, but that you're very clear, very succinct, and you're ready to go versus trying to say, hey, I can do anything. What do you need? Right? That doesn't work anymore as far as getting any kind of attention.
One of the other things that I've noticed about you, Nina, is how you're inspiring your own team to use AI and be kind of the leader in that space. So talk a little bit about, how you've kind of brought this change first at home or within Microsoft first and then to the whole partner system.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Yesterday I was noticing that before 10 a.m., I had probably used Copilot 10 different ways in the morning already. And I even had to stop and think to myself, wow, I've even changed so much how I do my business. We can't be in the position of advocating AI for our clients with any level of authenticity or even creativity if you haven't embraced it yourself. So Microsoft often talks about Microsoft being customer one. We're going through it. So we're even internally, we're doing workshops on like, how do we embrace AI in sales? What does that look like? How do we extend our partner graph, for example? So we have much more information on a partner, and we allow the partner to actually influence that as well. But we're using AI in every way, shape, and form. I'm starting to have partner briefing docs, right? We all know about
Yeah.
those, right? Before I go in to meet with a partner.
Right.
Boy, it's AI is helping to take some of the heavy lift out of that. Performance reviews. I use AI, right? We're recording all these great conversations. Thinking outside of the box with a partner before I sometimes go into those meetings. I'm like, hey, is there something I'm not seeing that's happening in the market? I can
Mhm.
ask our tools, right? Can you help me see around the corner or some ideas
Yeah.
or suggestions? Some of them are good, some of them are totally off the mark. But wow, is it just pushing us in new ways to think? And then last and I think most importantly, we're using AI to recommend partners into the field. So
Mhm.
that granularity of how you show up internally is now actually informing the field on when to trigger you, what your value proposition is. So they're not just going to the same partner that they used on the last account, but they're going to the best partner that has the best experience,
Mhm.
the most success with customers. And so, I mean, there isn't a way I'm not using it. I'm looking at our financials. I mean, you
Yeah.
not, um, it's just fun. Every
That's
Friday we do and I just share this because AI is not a training. It's not 3 trainings. It's a way of life now.
yeah.
And so on Fridays, we do a best tips and tricks across the organization. And we use AI, and people can share how they're using it. And then what we also do is we play games. We do like Shark Tank with AI. We do things for a cultural like connection,
Yeah.
just fun. And we just integrate AI into everything.
Wow. Love it. It's a way of life, and it's a whole different way of life that is kind of pushes you as well to see beyond, to see around the corners,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of give you time back. And also, it's amazing how different people have used it for all sorts of different purposes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm really excited about this next phase beyond COSAL with the marketplace and also with joint account planning and what it could do as
Mm-hmm.
AI could do in the space for us. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for being an amazing sponsor in them. I have this last one question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if there's so many partner managers on this call, partner leaders on the call who lead, large partnerships today and are all
Mm-hmm.
driven to perform and show. So if you were to give them one advice on
Mm-hmm.
how they could be better and more effective in this world, even if it is for their own work or for Microsoft,
Mm-hmm.
what would it be?
Yeah. Um, to me, it's like it just really make your unique value proposition simple for the sellers to understand. Make sure you're not using all the buzzwords and all the fancy, like I do transformation or I do X, Y, or Z, right? But make sure it's very real to them. So, a clear story, it's succinct, it talks about customers, what the upside for the deal is, understand what the economics are for the sales rep, right? Coin operated, ego driven, right?
Yeah.
And how you transact it. Just making sure that you have that story really super, super nailed and you're focused in that story on those outcomes.
Right.
And then on the active opportunities, do your homework and start with that value proposition first to the seller that you want to engage or get help with, rather than just saying, "Hey, what are you seeing?" And so forth. An ounce of vulnerability or trust will
Mhm.
be echoed back to you
Mm.
in magnifold. So.
Fantastic advice there, Nina. I've always been inspired of how you've removed roadblocks, how you've inspired lots of people around the Microsoft ecosystem. Looking forward to more questions from the community. With that, Chase, do we have more questions? I already seeded a few in the questions that I saw. Okay, Ace. All right, what's the most common thing you see partners getting wrong operationally? That's a good one.
Oh, operationally, so the reality is the sellers get paid. Your recognition is all on how you're tracking your deals and opportunities, right? And showing like what we call it at Microsoft Pracker or PAL tagging. And sometimes they don't understand the importance of it. It actually is quite critical to getting that momentum with the field, as well as to unlocking a lot of the benefits at Microsoft. So once again, a little bit of the plumbing work goes a long way on opening access to a lot of funding, visibility, and traction.
Absolutely. There's so much to know in this space with co-sell automation and how revenues are counted together, and having a firm grasp on that. People don't get it operationally right. It's not just the acronyms; it's the logic behind them.
Correct.
Whether it's ACR, MBS, Pracker, there's
You
tons
got
to go around.
You got them, but it's worth spending a little bit of time, because that's quite honestly one of the ways, not the only way, but one of the most important ways we measure the success of the partnership together.
Yeah, maybe there's time for one last question. Also, is the marketplace convergence a skill set change or a process change, or both?
I want to make sure I understand what we mean by that. So, Mark, the market.
Let's expand on that. I know where Ace is coming from on that.
Okay.
So there used to be two different teams in
Yep.
many of these ISVs. The idea that there was a marketplace team that's separate, kind of seen as revenue operations. Here's an alliance team that is doing co-sell, right?
Oh,
so it's like a skill set change, or is it the process change because two different people and skill sets are involved?
It's no, it's honestly all the same now. Marketplace sits within the partner organization. So that's the first thing. Secondly, the way that we pay the field on co-sell is all through Marketplace too. And the way that I recognize my sellers that are partner focused is also on Marketplace. So they probably felt a little bit more separate, and we brought, to your point, like that convergence has certainly happened, that we're focused as that is the main vehicle that we measure and we drive the co-sell through.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Dina, I've had over 60 comments while you were speaking here, so a lot of engagement from the audience. With that, I really thank you for spending your time at Partner Signal Live. A huge thank you from the whole community to you, and best ahead for your close of quarter. You guys are in Q4 now, right?
Yeah, we just flipped the switch to Q4, so good stuff. So great.
Thank you so much, Dina.
Thank you so much.
Take care.